Hello and welcome back to the Football Forecast. We've got Kwaku and we've got a debut. He's done a few of these in his career. Jody Morris, how are you?
Very good, thanks.
We're going to talk about the contenders. The World Cup is up and running. We've seen some special performance from the sides we expect it from. We're going to talk about one of those. And we've also seen a bit of magic from Leo Messi. I just want to put it out there. It's not on the script, but Leo Messi magic has finally arrived to the tournament. But let's talk contenders. And Argentina are not on this list. Is there anyone that stood out to you where you go, they could go all the way?
I'd probably have to lean towards France. I said before the tournament, there wasn't anyone that I kind of fancied massively. I thought 4 or 5 teams could win it. And I still do believe that. But I think with kind of how up and down some of the teams have been in sort of the various 2 games that they've played, I do think the attacking prowess from both sides of the French attack in Mbappe and in Dembele, I just think they look above anybody else in the tournament from an attacking threat. I think they've got the ability to go past players with intricate runs behind the back 4, using skills in 1v1 situations, but also they're popping up with assists and goals. And I just think that if you've got players of that magnitude performing to that sort of level, then I think it's hard to look past them.
I also think with France as well, in a World Cup or in major tournaments, it's about moments, and they've got arguably the best player in the world in Kylian Mbappe, who will give you those moments. Yeah. The second goal that he scored was almost more impressive than the first. The first was a decent finish, cut back. But the second, where he just got himself in the right position, has come off his fire and has gone in, he's got a desire to go and get goals. So I think with France, they're perfectly set up to go and attack this competition. Obviously got pedigree, are the current world champions, and they've kind of arrested that pattern of winning the World Cup or getting to a World Cup final, then going out in the group stages. They're going to go through their group and quite comfortably, and the strength and depth is there for everybody to see. So France, you can't really bet against France, who are current world champions, and in my opinion, have got the best player in the world in the team.
My only ever so slight worry, and I think we spoke about this before the tournament, no Kante, no Pogba, so that midfield, they did get overrun at time by Denmark, and Denmark do have a good midfield three. But then going further on in the competition, you've got Brazil's midfield, although to be fair, they practically don't play with a midfield at the moment. You've obviously got England's midfield, which is talked about plenty. France could meet a few of these sides along the way, and then that midfield might have to turn up. I think at the moment they've sort of gone, we can rely on Mbappe, who'll give us those moments. In those big tournament games, I mean, you will know better than we do, but that midfield battle becomes really important.
Absolutely, and I have to say I totally agree with you. I think there's other midfielders in the tournament that actually got better players and probably a little bit better balanced. Like you said, when you're missing players of Kante's ilk and Pogba, who's on his day can produce. But what I would say with that is that when teams are getting on top of the French team, that will leave all sorts of space for the attacking players, which I do actually think the French back 4 are good enough to deal with sort of prolonged attacks. And I just think the moment that ball turns over, when you've got Mbappe and the fact that teams, like you said, could find themselves for periods in games on top of France, the amount of room that will be left for after the turnover for people like Mbappe, that I'm not sure there's many people quicker than him in world football at the minute. Yeah,
he's different level, and he's kind of trying to make a stamp on this tournament. We're going to talk about it later in terms of changing the guard, but he's really gunning for that top spot in terms of best player in the world, and I think this could be his tournament. He's odds-on favourite to finish the top goal scorer. He's already got 3 goals in the tournament already. It's going to be hard to stop him, and like Jody said, when they are just soaking up that pressure, they're probably the most lethal team in the tournament on counter-attack because of the pace and the widths.
They've also got Antoine Griezmann in there, who I think when he plays for France is a completely different player. He's also played a little bit deeper. It's almost like playing like a...
More like a 10, isn't he?
Yeah, he's kind of like playing like a 10, which obviously over the years is not where you'd probably put him. You normally you can go play up front. And he was the sort of moments player, and I think he's now gone, I probably don't have that in my game as much anymore. I'll give that to Mbappe, Dembele, Olivier Giroud, who we definitely need to talk about. But Griezmann so far has created 5 big chances in the tournament, and he's pretty unlucky that he's only actually got 1 assist so far.
Yeah.
But going by the way he's playing, I think when we talk about midfield battles, you've got a player like that who can almost win you the battle with the ball at your feet, and then you let Rabiot and the rest of the gang do the legwork.
Yeah, well, I feel like Antoine Griezmann, maybe we need to start adjusting our perception of him after the 2018 World Cup, where he was a top scorer for France. We thought the world's going to be his oyster and he's going to become one of the best players in the world. Hasn't necessarily worked out for him. The big move to Barcelona didn't work out, and at Atletico Madrid he's got limited minutes this season. But when he plays for France, he plays with a different type of freedom, different type of creativity. He drops in and he can see the pass. Obviously, it's easier to see the pass when you're passing to Dembele and Mbappe, but he makes them tick. And whether you've got a slightly weaker midfield, I don't want to discredit Rabiot and Tchouaméni, but they're not Pogba and they're not Kante. He does make them tick, and he has that creativity that they need to unleash those wide players. So France are a lethal outfit, but it's all dependent on who they draw in the next round, and I think that's the case for most teams in this tournament. We haven't seen the best of teams. I think France is the only team to win both their games, and I feel like where you end up in the draw will determine how far you get in this tournament.
I think also on the Griezmann point is that he's playing in the number 10 role, which is obviously deeper than we're kind of used to. He's getting to the latter stages of his career, but as a number 10 off the ball without it, he's used to, okay, he didn't have to do it at Barcelona, but when he's played under Simeone, the way they are off the ball, they work their socks off. And even from a number 10 aspect, there's a lot of times you get these top attacking players that will play in that role. They're not great the minute they lose the ball, and they're sometimes a little bit of a liability. I actually think he does really well off the ball from a defensive aspect as well. So if you're talking about trying to build through midfield, if you're only playing one in there, or say if there's two in the pivot, the fact that Griezmann will latch on to the deepest midfielder very quickly and be able to jump from there to the centre half. So I think from a defensive aspect, he does very well in that role as well.
Yeah, I think on that point, I think what you found with Griezmann is he can create an overload in that position. I think for most teams, when they play with a 4-2-3-1, you can almost discount the front four from a defensive standpoint. When you've got Dembele and Mbappe, who don't work very hard, and you've got Giroud, who's sort of like your pillar up top, then you need your 10 to do some of the work in those wide areas, and Griezmann's unbelievably good at that. Olivier Giroud, very quickly, how underrated is this guy? And also, in this France team, is he a better fit than Karim Benzema?
Well, straight away, Giroud's record speaks for itself with France. Me personally, I wouldn't put him on the same level as a Benzema at all.
But for this France team, in terms of the role he
does, I still wouldn't. To be honest with you, I still think Benzema links the play up better than a Giroud. I think he gets himself into pockets. He's hardly gives the ball away. What I would say about Ollie is that, yes, we know kind of what you're going to get from him. You're not going to get the runs in behind, but what he is, even though he's not the quickest, he still is a willing runner and would always make the movements in the box, always makes near posts. And you have to say from a finisher's aspect, you can't argue with that. When he gets chances, he usually scores goals. And like you said, okay, he got brought off quite early into the second game. But as far as Benzema levels, no. But you do have to say if he is your backup striker and he has that amount of goals, he's now the record goal scorer. You have to give huge credit to Ollie.
He's not a bad backup, is he? He's probably the best backup in the world, to be fair. Your favourites?
It's a difficult one. I've flip-flopped so much. People who've watched this will know that I picked Argentina at the beginning of the tournament. Having seen them in the first few games, I can't really see. They'll go as far as Messi can take them, and judging by the standard of their quality, I can't really see them getting beyond the last 16 or quarterfinals. I've now switched to another South American team. It's Brazil for me now. I know that Neymar's going to be missing for the last two group games, but I think they've got enough in the locker to go pretty far in this tournament. I think it's a tournament for a South American team because of the climate. Richarlison obviously won the goals of the tournament so far. One of the best goals I've ever seen at a World Cup. They seem to have that unity. You saw it when Brazil scored the goal in terms of everybody celebrating and everybody getting together. And then when you look at their strength and depth of the people who they bring off the bench, you see Anthony, you see Rodrigo, Bruno Guimaraes has not even got a look in. They're a really strong side. And we talked about midfields before in terms of France's. There's a little bit more unorthodox. You have Paqueta and you have Casemiro and you have Neymar, who plays like a faux number 10 but drifts in and around. And so when they play against one of the bigger teams, one of the better teams, that could be a point that could be maybe exploited a little bit. But I think in terms of their group, they're going to seamlessly qualify. And they excite me. When the Brazilians are in town, that's when the World Cup really starts, and they've got that samba flair, but also that pragmatism as well. Their fullbacks aren't necessarily as adventurous as fullbacks in the past for Brazil. So I feel like they can soak up pressure against the bigger teams. But again, like I said before, with France, it depends on who they draw in the next round or in the knockout stages in terms of how far they get into competition.
Attacking wise, I mean, their team's a joke. I mean, you've got Rafinha, who obviously played Neymar's now out, and I think what we saw when he came off is they were a little bit quicker. The ball was moving a little bit quicker. I feel when you've got someone of Neymar's technical ability, the ball goes to him and everyone sort of stands still because they go, let's see what he does and then we'll go from there. Vinicius Jr. included, who obviously plays off that side. Now Neymar's out, who would you play in that 10?
Me personally, I would like to see Rodrigo play, just because I think that he offers a bit more of a goal threat than the others. I know people would talk about Anthony, maybe thinks that he suits like the Brazilian style, but going back to the point of how Brazil played when Neymar came off the pitch, it's almost a little false narrative, if you like, because at that stage of the game, when it's almost done and people coming on there trying to impress, I think you can sometimes get lured into this fact, oh, look how great the subs have done. And it's like, I mean, we done it a bit with England's first game. I just think you got to be careful sometimes jumping into these, and granted, you want your subs to make an impact, absolutely. And they looked a little bit slicker in the passing when Neymar come off. But I'd like to see Rodrigo. I just think he offers a little bit more of a goal threat. But again, when you're talking about the level of creativity that they have, it is mouthwatering stuff. And I think you can close your eyes and have a little, and those attacking players, and then whoever they pick, they're going to be entertaining.
They played the Serbia game like it was an NBA game. They sort of said, like, we've got like 5 attackers who we know can score goals for us. We'll throw in Paqueta into the mix. And Casemiro, you just sit in the hole, try and pick off the ball wherever you can. I wonder what they'll do going forward, because tactically, when you come up against a side that are maybe a little bit better in transition than Serbia, because Serbia play with Mitrovic up top, and I think they almost gave the game up a little bit. They sort of went like, we're not that interested in playing this game. And I felt it was a game they could have actually competed in, and that just played into Brazil's hands, and then Brazil could be patient. Then, as Jody said, as it opened up, Rodrigo looked amazing because there's sort of like pockets of space everywhere. So you kind of left going, oh wow, they've got all this. I think in a game when you play against a side who are better in transition, you're under more pressure. I do wonder how Brazil cope then. I
think they will switch it up. I think because they were the last team to play, or them and Serbia were the last 2 teams to play, and everybody's waiting to see this Brazil side who everyone's been raving about. They kind of played the occasion. It was raucous in the stadium, and you could tell they were excited. I think they will maybe tone it down in the future games in this tournament, just because I don't think it's a very practical way to play against the best teams in the competition. But I like the balance of the Brazil side, and it's crazy to think that we still back this Brazil side to get quite far in this tournament, even if Neymar is injured. They're no longer reliant on Neymar to be the person who creates everything for them. They've got incredible attacking players. And with him out, I'd like to see someone like Gabriel Jesus maybe be given the run out. I know at Arsenal he plays as kind of like a faux front man, but if Richarlison wants to maybe switch position, you play Gabriel Jesus in behind him to create and also provide that goal threat. I think that'd definitely be something that Brazil could explore, and it could provide them more options in terms of scoring goals as well.
He has the versatility, doesn't he, Jesus? I mean, I was surprised that he didn't start the game just because of how well he's done so far this year for Arsenal. But then when you see Richarlison pop up with those 2 goals. Great finish, I have to say. But while we're on this point of Richarlison,
go on.
For me, the finish was outstanding. The swivel and outstanding technique. For me, the touch is a baggy touch.
I knew you were going to say that.
He isn't meaning to pop that up for then a swivel and shot, in my opinion. But still, you still got to then, those of us that have had plenty of bad touches, you still got to make sure the next one counts. And he certainly made that count.
He's one of these players, right, that you honestly cannot account for. You cannot predict what he'll do. And in that moment is exactly that. Like, he takes a terrible touch. A lot of strikers, I think, actually just play that into the midfielder because there's a midfielder running on. But because his brain's almost like too fast for his feet, he just goes, what's the next thing I can do?
Well, I spoke to the Everton guys, and they was a little bit like that. He's so unpredictable, but he is not kind of knowing what's going to be happening himself, let alone the people that are kind of asking him to do certain things. But he's a willing runner, he's physical, and he looks like he loves scoring goals for Brazil. And the form he's in at the moment, you can see him scoring more goals.
Yeah, and the players love him as well. Quaker, you mentioned the word balance. So very quickly, on the side that I think have the best balance is Spain. I think the way they dominate the ball, the Germany game, they could have taken that game away from Germany. There's some games in this World Cup where you can't account for what happens, but that is the World Cup magic in itself. I think that midfield three almost can suffocate any midfield three. And I think when you don't have the ball in the World Cup, and this is what you kind of see, every team, or every country, should I say, has weaknesses in their backline where players just switch off. And if the opposition's playing 400 passes and you've touched the ball 12 times, your left back eventually is just going to go, it's not coming this way anyway. And then it comes over your head and you're asleep. And I think Spain have that deadly quality to kill you. And then I know that Alvaro Morata is this player that people don't really love. I personally think he's a perfect tournament player. He's one of these guys that I think he is decent in the box. And I think, yes, his touch isn't great, but if you're playing this heavy possession-based football and you've got someone like Morata who can score goals for you, decent in the air, good movement in the penalty area, you can throw in your wild card of Ferran Torres and Ansu Fati, you suddenly have a very balanced overall look. My thing is you just can't get the ball off them. And Germany are a very good pressing side, and they were being suffocated.
Yeah, I just feel with Spain, it remains to be seen, and people are very, very quick to point to Gavi and Pedri being the successors to Xavi and Iniesta. It remains to be seen. Let's see these guys high leverage moments in knockout football to see if they can actually live up to that billing. But so far on the pitch, they've been the most impressive team probably.
They're my favourite team to watch. I think they play football the way in which it should be played.
Do you think you can get into that midfield?
Nope, absolutely not. But and even just touching on that midfield again, I mean, Busquets is an all-time great. He's a Hall of Famer in whatever country you want to look at football. I mean, as far as playing that position, he's been world class for 10, 15 years. But Pedri's probably my favourite young player in world football at the minute. I love the way in which he takes the ball under so much duress and pressure, but yet someone so slight has such great feet and knowledge of where his opposition are, that he always exactly how Xavi used to do it. He kind of manipulates the ball into a position that you either have to foul him to get it off, or if you leave yourself open, he's got the legs that he's able to run away from you. But I just worry about the Asensio one that's almost playing in the false nine. I worry about them scoring goals, because I don't think Olmo and who's it on the other side?
Ferran Torres?
Yeah, I don't think they're deadly enough. I think they proved that in the chances that were sort of created again. I know Olmo had a fantastic strike at goal, but Torres had a couple of opportunities where he doesn't look like he's deadly enough to score the goals. And I like the fact that Morata is not starting the games, because I do think, I agree with you, that when you bring him on and he just adds that, I'm going to run in behind and continuously keep running behind and offer something different after you've probably got 600-700 passes in the bag and the other team's been running around all over the pitch. I actually think that's a good weapon for Spain, and I think they'll cause anybody problems. It's just whether they'll be able to keep it out the other end, I think.
It'll be very interesting to see who does win it. Spain, Brazil or France. If you've got someone else that you think might win the World Cup, then drop it in the comments.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.